Everyone, this is Michelle Oliver, and I'm here today with Lisa Michelle Zega, and we have a new format that we are really excited to share with you. So we have decided to take an adventure into reading and learning and sharing what we are implementing from amazing books with you to hopefully just provide a new type of value for you. So today we are going to discuss an incredible book, which is called Never Split the Difference. And it is by Chris Voss. And the entire description I will put in the description notes here with the video, because there's so much information about this book. And I don't really want to take the time to go into all of it. But basically, Chris was a hostage negotiator. So the name of the book, Never Split the Difference, how I think the tagline is how to negotiate like your life depends on it. And so the new format is going to be as follows. We will read a book each week that well, maybe not the whole book, but we'll be studying a book and we will share our top 2 takeaways from reading that and what we are going to do to implement those takeaways. Now, some of the books we both already read, so we're going to share a little bit about our history with the book and how what we learned before has benefited us in our lives. And then we will come back next week and tell you what we implemented and what the impact of that implementation was. So here we go, Lisa Michelle. Are you excited about this?
I am super excited. I'm excited to engage this from a fun, just curious place. And one of the things that Michelle and I also have in common is just the idea of wanting to come as like normal women. And it's so easy to fall into our expert role. And so by allowing just experimentation, and that's why we're calling it Do the Book, because we're like doing it. We're not just reading it, we are picking something to do so that we can have an experience, share the experience. We don't know how it's going to go. And I do have some history with this book. I've read it several times, but what I recognize is it's maybe been a year since I've read it. I think like 6 months ago, I looked at something specific in the book, but so it was really great. It was really great to be reacquainted and also recognize how much there is that I could practice and learn from. So yeah. How about you, Michelle?
Yeah, that's great. And obviously, I think it's obvious, but we really do show up here completely unprepared and unscripted, which is why I forgot to tell you the name. Thank you for bringing up our name. Do the Book is the name of our new series. The last one we did was Courageous Conversations. You should go back and watch those and give us feedback so we can provide more value to you. But Do the Book. And which means don't just read the book, do it, right? Learn, implement.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. Nike had it right. So I too have history with this book. I love this book. And I can't even tell you how many times I've read it. I'd say 7, 8, 9, 10, I don't know, many times over
Many
the last
times.
4 or 5 years. Yeah. And the 2 things I'll say that I've implemented that I love and really have helped me in just so many ways. The first one is the idea of not worrying about yes, but getting to know. Because as a salesperson, I've been in sales all my life, and the big that iconic book that was called Getting to Yes. Well, it's still called Getting to Yes.
Was called, they changed the name after.
Yeah, it's still really, it's used quite often. And I think we've all built up a resistance or an irritation to people when we can tell just like that when they're trying to get us to say yes, right? And so I love this idea, and I've used it in, maybe sometime we'll talk about that in the past, but I've used it in really interesting negotiations. And it's really fun, and it allows the other person to remain in control. So the idea is you allow them to get to say no. So you're basically getting what you want. And this is not manipulation. It's negotiation.
Well,
It's
just
different. And
the most easy example and the one that is now automatic for me is anytime I call a person, I say is now a bad time to talk. And
yes,
the minute they say no, right? It just opens up. And I do this with my girlfriends. But part of it is it's just like, oh, wow, it feels deeply honoring to ask that question. Because now I've given them like the total freedom in the relationship to just say yes or no. And saying no, it just seems really great. And then I know that I'm calling at a time that works for them. And that's just become like to the point where when I don't do it, I recognize it. Oh, I asked if now is a good time to talk, like that kind of a thing.
yeah. So you're allowing them to remain in control while
Yeah.
still getting what you want. And yes, I love that. And the other thing that I do is repeat the last three words. I mean, that the person says. And that's just a really good habit for every conversation. It just settles everything. And it's great when you're doing interviews, and it's basically like saying to the person, tell me more.
Yeah.
And they feel so validated. So those are the two things I've implemented a lot that have helped me. I love those.
You know what's so interesting about that, Michelle, is I've had a lot of resistance to doing the last three words. And it's like I got trained in something called motivational interviewing, and that was another form of mirroring a lot, or one of the components of motivational interviewing is
Mhm.
mirroring. But I would always mirror based on body language, tone of voice, calibrate the speed of my speaking, but I wouldn't use their exact language. Like I would paraphrase it. Um, and so when he gave this, I noticed the resistance. So that's actually one of the things I'm going to be practicing is I'm releasing my resistance, and I'm
Great.
actually going to practice the
Yeah.
straightforward. I'm going to use their actual words and just notice what that looks like, what that feels like, what that produces. And this is just like in all my relationships. I feel like that's something that I'll be able to observe. I already know I'm going to learn from it, but I don't really know what I'm going to learn. So that'll be fun to try.
That'll be fun to try. I know it feels awkward when you first
Yeah.
start doing it. And it felt really, I'd say, I think it was like 2018, the first time I read the book, because I had launched a new um, part of my business, and I was selling a lot. So I was deeply immersed in like Grant Cardone and what's his name? Jordan Belfort, and like all these intense, I like everyone. I was just immersed in these sales trainings, and I thought, oh my gosh, those three words, it sounds really contrived and fake, and they're going to pick up on it, but they do not. And I think it's largely determined by your tone of voice, right? And so now it's just like if you're really intently listening and then you say, so you're going to work on that, or that
Yeah.
makes you feel happy, like you're really showing with your
Yeah.
body and your energy. I think it that's what has to motivate it,
Yeah.
instead of you want green ice cream or whatever. So yeah, I think that's part of the beauty of this, I think, is that we get to play with it, like you said.
Yeah.
And so it requires that we release the resistance and just give it a go. So that's cool. I'm thrilled. I can't wait to hear that, how that goes for you next week. I think we could spend a whole year on this book, honestly.
Oh, Easy
Um,
peasy. There's so many, like, it's not just simple. There's some, there's
yeah.
parts of
Oh,
it that are really nuanced or technical, or it's only because I had had other training that kind of layered on some of this that it wasn't completely foreign. But
yeah.
even still, the like cold negotiations, the anchoring into like different price points, the way you would negotiate like a car deal or something like that. Like if I had something like that in my life, I would really like to practice some of those things. I just can't see where I could do it for this, right? Like even when he talked about, there's a place where he talks about say you want to pay
Oh, for
uh
the Jeep or whatever he was.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you're like the 65 and the I don't, and I see I'm not even saying it right. I really recommend the book.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
really, I love it so much. I mean, maybe we will just do that, just this one book, but we have some other really good ones we want to do too. Because
now what are
we're
you gonna
doing the book, we can talk about it like that. We've got other ones we want to do too. Um, and one thing I know we were going to go into the expert mode, but one thing I do want to say is that I think it's interesting when you're listening or reading this book to be aware of where you intuitively do the things that he talks about, because that is great for our self-awareness, right? Like
yeah.
I realize that there have always been things I just negotiated for because I wanted them, because it was a non-negotiable in my life, that
Mm-hmm.
it would embarrass my kids or whatever. But it's like at a restaurant, I want food the way I order it, not the way you deliver it. If I go
Mm-hmm.
to a hotel, it just was like, why would I not ask for more of what I want in something like that, or clothes, or like anything where I'm comfortable. But then there's all these other areas where I'm not. And so
Mm-hmm.
you can take those skills and consciously apply them,
Yeah.
it's just really fun and interesting to learn and
Now,
do.
what are you gonna be exploring this week?
Yeah, so I have two, and I wrote them on my whiteboard that I want to work on, because I'm going to be spending a lot more time in sales conversations. And so the two that I wrote down was, don't feel their pain, label it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so honestly, the names of the chapters are a really good summary of the book. If
Yeah.
you just look at the titles of the chapters. And I think it's the second chapter is called Don't Feel Their Pain, Label It. So I'm going to work on that. That's basically about tactical empathy, um, where, and and you kind of like, if you're trained in sales, you kind of do this anyway, but I want to get better at it and really be more of service as I do
Mm-hmm.
it. So I'll be exploring that. Um,
So you'll
so
be
it's
working on labeling their pain.
labeling their pain, not feeling it. So it's like the difference between sympathy and tactical empathy, where you say, and then the second one I'm going to work on is almost an extension of that, I feel, but I'll be studying those two chapters, which is to trigger the statement in the other person where they get to a point where they say some version of that's right. So you're basically summarizing their unspoken emotions with I think he uses the example, sounds like, seems like. So it seems like you are concerned about that. It seems like it seems like investing in yourself right now is really uncomfortable for you.
That's right.
Instead of saying, yeah, perfect.
Instead of you're right.
Except that would not probably be the way to do. I have to play with this because you don't want it to be an automatic. It seems like investing in yourself right now would be a huge stretch for you financially, then you would say that's right. And then I know that
Or
I
I might say, well, it doesn't feel like a huge stretch. And then you would calibrate. Yeah.
yeah. So calibrated questions is a big one, right? I love that. And the calibrated question, it's all kind of works together.
Yeah.
But those two, so the calibrated questions are open-ended questions that you're asking. But you always want to keep the fulcrum of control there. Anyway, those are the two I'm going to work with. And the idea behind this summarizing and saying like, seems like, you want them to feel heard, but you don't want to say, I hear you saying. You always want it to be on them. So seems like you're really angry. Seems like you're pretty scared to bet on yourself right now. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll be working on those too. Do you have a
I,
second one you're going to work on?
yeah, well, there's two others that I'm thinking about. So the first one I said I was going to do the mirroring, like the last three words kind of a thing, and just release my resistance. That there's one that's discovering the black swan, and that's discovering what the person's underlying motivation is that they're not saying.
Yeah.
Now that feels the most tricky and nuanced to me. Um, so it's even a chapter I'll reread, like, but it's the idea of there's information that people don't tell us, right? For whatever reason. And but it's also information that's really key to know in terms of where their decision is being motivated from. And so that is called the black swan. And I'd like to, I would say that's where I'm the least practiced, maybe. But there's this other one that's the accusation audit. And that's when
Oh,
you get
that's
into
so
it.
good. I know they're all so good. Maybe we should just do this all year long. One, we could
It's
take one,
really good.
could totally do that. We could take one each week and just work on it. I mean,
That would be
totally do that. And then
that
we
would be
could
really
also do
cool.
the health book. We're looking at a health book. Should we tell them what it is?
Life force.
Yeah,
Did I say it?
it's a longevity book. It's Tony Robbins' new book. So because all of us in midlife are really interested in these new scientific rejuvenation, longevity discoveries because we want to live long and healthy. And
I'm just wondering if we could just do like pick those two books. It's
sure.
simple, then people know the spine. Look at you just I'm saying you, whoever's listening, you're getting to see us discover in real time, and we're still playing with it.
Wow.
So
Tip here.
but that idea of all
Fun.
right, we could have these two spines and then we're practicing and playing and seeing what we learn. And I can't even imagine what the outcome of that would be over a period of time.
Well, we will hone our negotiation skills. I mean, there's so much content on this available because his company is called the Black Swan Group, right? And
Yeah.
they have all kinds of videos. In preparing for this, I was watching a couple of clips from the Black Swan Group, which I thought were really interesting because whoever the woman is, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. She was talking specifically about women and how we are like when so she was talking about mirroring and she said, when a woman even when a woman simply mirrors with those three words, we can be perceived as being too aggressive or bitchy, right?
Perceived as bitchy?
Yeah, too aggressive and bitchy. It's like assuming, it's like being too much the expert or, oh, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're saying. So it's really important. That's where tonality really matters, right? Tonality. And I think our energy. So it is, I do believe I know not everyone's going to agree with this, but I personally, you have to find what works for you, I think. And I, I like to, I feel better about me when I am being humble and yet strong. So, so that's, I don't know. I just think it's interesting to be aware of these things. We can be,
Humble
when
and
we're
strong.
but when we're talking to a man,
Hmm.
it's different when you're talking to a woman, but if you're talking to a man and you mirror back to him, he can perceive that you are being too aggressive, that you're being, this is what her video was. And I know that's true because I've experienced it so many times. And I was in a negotiation a few years ago, using the first time I used this, actually, I was negotiating my rent on this place. And there was a man and a woman. And I was like, I had been studying his book and I was like, I'm just going to try this, see what happens. And I couldn't believe the difference in how they were responding. So there's something to that for sure.
What was the difference you noticed in how they were responding to you?
Um, well, the man was just more, I could tell there was resistance there.
Mhm.
Like when you put up, men have, here we go, danger zone, men and women, stereotypes. But they do, I don't care what you think, I'm going to tell you what I think. If I speak like that, then I'm a bitch, right? I mean, it's true. Um, so the man, when I was firm, I got resistance. However, if I remember correctly, the woman, and then you're dealing with their dynamics. So she was, what do you call it? She was deferring to him.
Oh,
So we were right together. Like I could feel she was respecting me because I was asking for what I want. And usually when you do that, I think in my experience, the woman will be like, this is cool. Like, I want to do that. I want to be able to ask for what I want. But the man was like, you're asking for what you want, you know? And are you going to break down? So it was more resistance from him. And I didn't want to be, I mean, it was important that he like me. And
mhm.
so then I just kind of I think women are pretty intuitive and you just play with it, right?
Yeah, I was thinking
Be
like
strong.
how, or be strong.
I let him be strong.
Oh, let him be strong.
You have to let it be their decision, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Let it be their
his book
decision.
is so great. And his whole thing about like, how am I supposed to do that? Asking that, like, how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah. And a version of that. I think when I was first practicing that was literally the words I was using every time. Like, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to do that? I did it in a negotiation with the county once. I ran a county program, and the head woman there, it didn't go like I thought it would. She was like, I don't care how you do it, just get it done. That's the end of the conversation. And I said again, how am I supposed to do that? But it was in a public meeting.
So then you were she was perceiving that as being like, um,
Yeah.
snarky.
And I know it's not the fault of the principles in the book. It was my implementation, but so it again, it's going to be fun to practice and we'll figure out if we're going to do it.
Yeah, because there's all those subtle nuances.
Yeah, even when you were sharing that example, and I want to be careful of the time because I think we're keeping it shorter. But with that man, I was like, oh, I wonder what an accusation on it would have been like. Like maybe I sound like a bitch to you, or I must sound, you
And
know.
I did actually start it out like, I'm going to sound really selfish and demanding when I bring this up. Um, And I think that that is, yeah, there's so many, but the key is, so what we're going to do is you're going to take the 3 words and the
Mm-hmm.
Black Swan and work
Mm-hmm.
on that. And then I'm going to take the don't feel their pain, label it, tactical empathy, and triggering, that's right, summarizing unspoken emotions, seems like, sounds like. And we will come back next week and report.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
this could be like working on this. I mean, it's intense stuff. It's like,
Yeah, it's a real workout.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure you just get better and better and better doing it, but bringing it to awareness and then implementing it is the tricky thing. So I'm excited about this, and it just will accelerate our growth for sure. And
Absolutely.
maybe hopefully inspire some of you to come on board with us. If you want to do this with us, come do it. And then you can share all your stuff and we can help each other become better negotiators, because I think, the word negotiation, like sales, has a bad rap, and it sounds like you're being manipulative or you're trying to get your way. When I say get your way, it's not about win-win, right? And it's about accomplishing the end goal. So that's a whole nother thing of the not going for win-win. But anyway, I don't want to go in. We got to end this. This is
Right,
now
right.
officially over. No, I'm kidding.
Concluded. You want this to be over.
Yeah, no, I want to talk all day like usual. But anyway, I'm excited. So yes, we invite you to join us in this doing the book.
Do the
And
book.
next week, we're going to come on with Tony Robbins' new book, and neither one of us have read it.
Mhm.
So by next week, we will have dipped our toes in the water, and we'll see what we can bring out of that, what we can do.
Sounds perfect.
All right, my love, have a great day.
You too.
And I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.